Okay, so let's get down to business because you guys came here to make some money, I assume. So one of the things I want to talk about is I want to talk about what a prospect is. And if you look at it, you know, I'm just trying to break things down. Our business really isn't all that complicated. You go out, you tell people what you do, and you ask them to buy something. There's really only about 6 or 7 things that you have to focus on and be good at in order to be successful in this business. And if you look at what a prospect isn't really all that complicated. A prospect has to have a need or a want. They have to have the money to act, and they have to want to talk to you. And if you find somebody that have a need or a want, the money to act, but they don't want to talk to you, well, they're not a prospect. So I talked this morning about filling up your arc, and your arc should already be reasonably full, that you shouldn't be going around chasing a whole bunch of people who don't want to deal with you. Or in other words, you shouldn't be going out trying to convince people to deal with you if you can just instead go out. I just think it's a lot easier to go out and find people who are already convinced and instead convince them to be dealing with you. So if you have a tickler file, it's even worse now because of technology. You can have thousands of names stored in your computer and keep them there forever. And I think that a tickler file is a very, very dangerous thing for a financial advisor to have if you're trying to grow your business. Because what happens is if you have 300 names in your tickler file, you drive into work every day with this false sense of security that you have 300 prospects. And my suggestion, just something for you to consider, would be if you have names of people that aren't doing business with you, that you should just get rid of those names. Like just totally get rid of them. Delete them from your database, get rid of the card, get rid of the file. And here's a couple of things that I would suggest you look at before you actually do that. Just ask yourself a few questions. How much do I want this person? You know, do I see potential for establishing a business relationship for this person? And am I making progress? If you don't really want the person, or you don't really see potential for establishing a business relationship with that person, or you're not making any progress, then you should just take their name, make one last call to them, and then get them out of your database, because if you walked in and you had no prospects, then you would actually go out and do something about it. The key things that make you successful in this business are what I call the ASK formula, which stands for your activity, your skill, and your knowledge. And everybody is a little bit weak in one of these 3 areas, and whichever area you're weak in, you have to overcompensate by being better in the other areas. So for instance, if you're weak in activity, you can overcompensate for that by being having a little bit better skill or a little bit better knowledge. If you're weak in skill, you can compensate for that by having better activity and better knowledge. Or if you're weak in knowledge, you can compensate for that by having better activity or better skill. But the most important thing in all of this is your activity. The main reasons people don't buy is no money, no caring, no understanding, no need, no trust, or no hurry. Those are the main reasons that people don't buy. So if you can satisfy these reasons for them, they should be able to buy. We use this as an index chart. Instead of using an index chart showing all the market cap, all these countries and everything, this is a picture of the world at night. Like you can talk GDP and that all you want. The bottom line is that there's no lights, there's no money. So just look where the lights are. That's where all the wealth is distributed around the world. You know, Canada and the US have about 50% of the world's lights. Europe has about 34%. Look at Africa. Look at South America. Look at China. 1.3 billion people in China. With India, at least you can see the shape of India. There's 1.1 billion people live in India. You know, if you live in India and somebody tells you that you're 1 in a million, there's 1,100 other people exactly like you. Before I design anything, I always stand back and I forget I'm in the financial services business, and I didn't get this from a book or anything like that. I said, okay, if I send a marketing piece out to my clients, what's my objective here? And so these are the questions that I ask myself before anything leaves my office. Is this marketing piece, is it going to differentiate me from everyone else out there? Is it going to have a long shelf life and a high impact? Is the information going to help to establish me as a credible source in my clients' eyes? And most importantly, you know, is it going to help to attract additional assets or generate quality inbound referrals from my clients, or is it going to improve my client retentions? So again, the key things here: differentiation, high impact, long shelf life, credible source. Is it going to attract additional assets or referrals or improve my client retention? If it's not going to do any of these things, why would I send it out? So if it's this is, as a business person, why we do it. And So what I do is, let's just hypothetically say that I turn around and I score myself on these different criteria. Let's just say from 1 to 10. And I say, okay, is this going to differentiate me? Maybe this is going to get a low mark. Is it going to have a high impact? Maybe I'll get a high score on that. Is it going to help establish me as a credible source? Maybe I'll get a high score on that. And I'll kind of end up with a little composite score that I just make up in my head that helps me come up with a decision on whether to send something out or whether to improve it. I want business to come to me, and like would everybody agree their very, very best clients are their sales force, and they're more than willing to send people to you if the topic of money comes up. But the key word here is if. You know, everybody talks about how topical money is. I don't find that my friends and family members talk about money all that much at all. So I want to provide them with a whole bunch of tools that my clients can use to just have around their house or wherever. They're going to at least have the opportunity for the topic of money to come up. Then when it does, there's the opportunity for my name to come up. So these are some of the things that I do, and I've got some of them at the back, but basically I've done a financial calendar, and I've done it a bunch of different ways. I've got a couple of different versions I've done. This is a 12-month laminated one. I have a color laser printer in my office. It cost me about $2,000. It cost me 11 cents per page to print. So I print up 100 of these. It costs me $11. I get them laminated for less than $1 each. I throw a fridge magnet on the back, and I send them out to my clients every year. And it sits on their fridge. It's got a nice picture on it. The opportunity for money to come up is there, and it's something that's serving my client. Other things I've done, I give every one of my clients a financial organizer. And they come into my office, and everything is in there. Their pension statements are in there. Their mortgage statements in there. All of their stuff is in there, and they come in, and it gives me a good opportunity to uncover opportunities. But even if they didn't use it, the point I want to make here is if you look at the lifetime value of a client and what the costs involved are for treating, specifically your best clients well, the costs are not very big. Now, when somebody becomes a brand new client, I mail these to them. And it's, well, why don't you just give it to them on the policy delivery? Give it to them the next time you see them. Or you just drive right past their house. Just drop it off at their house. No, you mail it to them for an additional $7. And the reason is that if I show up at my house today at 4:30 and there's a little blue card in my mailbox that says that there's a parcel waiting for me at the Canada Post outlet, the first thing that I do is I call my wife and I say, what did we order? And she tells me nothing. So I do one of two things. Either I get in my car and I go drive and get it right away, or I get it the next day, and meanwhile I'm thinking about who sent me something. And so for the price of the anticipation is worth the $7. So just think about what your thought process would be if you got one of those cards.